Shireen, maybe you want to say,
Sorry, I'm just
maybe,
recording this session.
yeah, maybe,
Okay. Oh yes,
Just so
so you are.
everybody knows. Sorry, David.
Shireen, maybe you want to say a few words about yourself?
So my background is marketing and comms and stakeholder strategy, and my big interest in film really is capturing diverse views and stringing it together in documentary narratives that are useful to informing and inspiring futures and collaborative conversations. So I've done a few of those like big on-camera studies and turned them into some thought-provoking stuff. And so yeah, that's largely my background in film.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to meet
So
you.
Yeah,
who are
likewise.
you?
Katz, why don't you
Tell
say
us-
hi?
Oh, sure. Oh gosh, that's so. Did my degrees in television, theatre, and then film. Managed to get the BBC to give me £500,000 to commission interesting works because they didn't know what to do with their new website. So we commissioned 12 fairly amazing pieces of work for not very much money. Because of that, I found myself with this incredible ecosystem of both big companies, because we brought those into the commissioning scheme because it was a very open commissioning scheme. So lots of startups, digital innovators, people who are doing amazing shit for not very much money, and these big sort of lumbersome companies. And so the thing I did after that was I built an open innovation competition platform to connect big companies with small companies. And so all the way through, I've been dealing with digital innovation, large scale engagement, co-creation, crowdsourcing, big events to bring people together. I got headhunted by the UN. Not very many women can say that, I'll tell you that
Yeah.
now. And it was probably the worst and the best time of my life because I realized how fucked up the UN actually is. Excuse my French. And also
that wasn't
realized
French.
that. Say again.
That wasn't French. I speak French. That wasn't French.
No, it wasn't French. No, it's an expression. You know what I mean. Yeah, so my whole shtick is about how do you bring people together so they can do things together that they couldn't do themselves, so that they're more than the sum of the parts. So crowdsourcing. At the moment, I spend most of my time helping big companies be less shit at scale, is what I say to them. So that's about, again, as a large corporation, how do you help to empower and unleash the problem-solving potential of the people inside your organization so that you actually work as an organism rather than a machine?
Lovely.
Look at that face.
Which face?
Welcome,
One of the
Ivan.
five.
Cat.
Hi.
Hi, Ivan. How you
For
doing?
so long, so good. How are you? I'm so amazed at the great stuff that you're doing, Katz.
Yeah, it's a funny old time. You know, one of the things that happens when you're single and in lockdown is you're twice as productive.
How brilliant is that?
There you go.
Good on you.
Yeah.
Good on you. Awesome. You guys are looking good. Hey, Shireen. Good to
Hello,
see that
Ivan.
Good to see that you're keeping David in check.
I don't think that's possible.
Which is all good. And hi, David.
Hi. So let's hear Jan
Hi.
what he has to say, and then you stay on. We all know you.
So, Katz, it's nice to meet you. This is the first time. So I'm just outside Toronto. I spent 15 years in the corporate world before realizing that I was really a misfit in large organizations. It was a game that I could play well, but it wore me down. So I left the corporate world in the late 98, early 99, and I've been out on my own since through a couple of entrepreneurial pursuits. The business that we have now is really technology focused on matching people with roles, and we've made the engine work both ways. So for the benefit of people to sort of navigate towards opportunities that they're naturally going to be better suited to, and to help organizations choose the right people in as well.
Aha.
What?
Another tech guy.
Yeah. Unwittingly, unqualified.
Me too.
Yeah.
Not stopping us making stuff though, eh?
No.
No. Making good shit.
So just that you all know, Bartura will join with a delay, but he has been a lot into the educational kind of work with the Greta generation or younger. So I'm sure he will be able to contribute stuff to our work.
I can share. Michael specializes as a mindset coach. He's like a genius in respect of mindsets for corporates, and sort of like a whisperer, like a CEO whisperer. And his passion is climate and just being human.
Right. So just because also to repeat, but also because Katz hasn't been to this meeting where I presented what Shireen and I came up with, and Katz, your background is, I think, perfect for this media work that we envision. So the idea was how to bridge between the Greta generation and the CEOs of corporations who are ready to listen. And one idea was that to get short videos from the Greta generation, them asking CEO level people, how do they see the future? How do they see the year 2040, for example? And letting the CEOs hear their question, and then getting for the CEO feedback in a very different way. We wanted the CEO, C-level people, to talk to their children or grandchildren about global warming or climate change. And these videos would be presented to the Greta generation. So there'd be immediately some common ground or some place that they can meet, because the CEOs would have heard how the Greta generation sees or envisions the future, and the Greta generation would hear a multi-generational dialogue inside a family. So it makes it all more personal, I think, and it's a good kickstart for platforms that Shaheen suggested that would take its own life, that we won't be working day and night around the whole year to make it a dialogue, but this dialogue would be kickstarted by us, but then would have it take on its own life. So that's my elevator pitch. Hello?
Hi.
So
That's awesome, David.
So there are two things that might be relevant. Shall I talk? Who's chairing
Yes,
this
go for
tricky
it.
conversation?
Otherwise,
I'll just talk. There were two things. Then one of I did back in 2009. I did a program of activity which was about helping policymakers make more relevant policy for education. And so what we did was have an event, a co-created event, where we brought together technology providers and educators and there was, we co-created who was going to be on stage and what we should be talking about, and we kind of created this kind of amplified event which had physical people in the physical event, but then had thousands of people watching and getting involved from outside. But the interesting thing about it was we had children in schools across the country who set up their own kind of think tanks inside. And we built a platform whereby these kids could listen to what was being said on stage and tweet in. Actually, they were tweeting in questions. And one of the other schools would have to retweet it before we saw it on this massive map. So we could see what the questions were. So the questions were coming in from the kids, they drove the conversation. And it was absolutely fascinating. You'd have policymakers, technology leaders, and education leaders on stage realizing that they had no fucking clue what the kids actually thought or knew or understood. And the kids were just extraordinary. And that live interface and the amplified experience was just an incredibly kind of powerful thing. And so when I was at the UN, we did a bigger thing where we had 10,000 children in schools across the world who we called it a meta conference. So we had a 6,500 person conference in Geneva with the usual, kind of the telco leaders and the political leaders having their very kind of male conversations. But we also had 10,000 children that were connected to, obviously, into their schools that were actually asking all of the questions. And that unmediated, decentralized approach was actually incredibly powerful, because then you'd end up with situations with 4 different countries on a stage, 2 policy people, 2 industry people, and they'd be talking at this kind of ridiculously high level, and actually it was really hard for people to really understand each other. And then the kids would dive in and ask a question on Twitter, and of course suddenly they're having to kind of answer the question and realizing they're not understanding each other. So I'm just thinking about the model you've just pitched is a very centralized model. It's about us collecting stories from kids and stories from CEOs. And I wonder then how you could scale that so it was less about us centralized mediation and more about us giving a platform to people to go, come on, you guys need to talk to each other and actually understand each other and feel connected.
If I might just go there for a sec, in respect to the platforms are there already. Imagine us actually having little viral things going on TikTok, or viral things going on Facebook, or viral things going on Insta. So if we could actually have sort of a little dance where people go dot 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 climate blah, and they have their comments, and effectively we're creating this viral like we go to the platforms where people are.
So I think there's a lot of that stuff happening already, is my answer to that.
Yeah.
I mean, all of the social media platforms are absolutely littered by certainly young people talking about the mess that we're in.
Yeah.
In all
So
sorts of ways.
How do we differentiate ourselves? That's one of the questions I wanted to pose. How do we, because we are new in the game, obviously, so how are we different? What do we bring to the table that is different?
And what impact do we want to have? What is the effect of what we do? What is the desired effect of what we want to do, and why is that important to the world?
Exactly. If it's already out there, why we're doing it anyway? What's the reason for us doing it? The reason for us doing it, in my view, is initially was there are a whole heap of people that want to get involved but don't know how. So that's where the CEO, like, how do we actually focus on the CEOs? How do we focus on getting the people who want to make change? How do we help them make the change? So what we've got is in respect of doing that, we've got the relevant forums where they can get engaged with think tanks and whatever. Once we do that and we have the relevant think tanks, we can then share those findings with the rest of the world in an engaged way.